Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back for another Real Housewives of Atlanta review, season 16, episode 2, Hot Dogs and Hot Mics. Do me a favor and hit the like button. I'm going to be off camera. I hope StreamYard doesn't act up. I have a meeting in a few minutes and I want to make sure that I put this out there because I haven't even gotten an opportunity to watch Married to Medicine yet. Don't worry, it will be up later on. My opinion out the gate, Portia is trying to control the way that Dennis shows up on camera, and it is not a good look, in my opinion. I don't agree with most of what Portia has done, and I'm beginning to think that there is a bigger problem here, like the fact that it seems like Portia is delusional. Seriously, Portia needs to work on herself. You can't keep on thinking that you're going to get a different outcome when you keep doing the same thing over and over again with each man that you decide that you're going to have some type of dynamic with. At some point, you got to switch it up. I'm not knocking her for falling too quickly, but I'm knocking her for not taking time to really get to be by herself and figure herself out before bringing all these additional people into the picture. Next thought. Drew has worked with many producers. I do not understand why, out of all of them, she is now choosing to work with Dennis. I want to know who really reached out to whom. I know she said that he reached out to her, but it came out of nowhere. For me, this whole situation is giving storyline. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. I think that Drew knew that Ralph wasn't going to be filming and she had to give us something. And maybe it was legitimate, but I think that she is also adding fluff to this piece to provide herself with something else other than her divorce. But let's go ahead and get into it. If there's something that I don't mention that you want to talk about, feel free to put it down below. So the episode is back and we are still upstairs in Shamia's living room talking about Drew and Dennis. And yes, I know it's not really her living room, but it's big enough that I'm going to call it a living room, right? So we're talking about Drew and Dennis, and Shamia speaks on what the streets are supposedly saying, talking about the matching outfits and Drew holding hands with Dennis and them being booed up. So she wants to know, are you dating Dennis? Drew is all extra. Not matching. Not matching. It's very much so. Okay, Drew, are you giving a performance here? She says her and Dennis aren't a thing. Drew is supposed to be an actress and her reaction is giving bad acting. It's not lining up to me. And I don't think there's anything to this. I just think that Drew knows that this is a scene. So Drew says, I talked to Portia about it and Portia's like, "Oh, no you didn't." At this point, I don't really know after watching the episode what the truth is. I'm going to say that she did at least shoot her a text message. Now, should she have done more? Probably. I'm not going to act like she shouldn't have. But she did send out some form of communication. She does this long, drawn out story about Portia does how she found out and how she noticed that Drew was washed out in a picture, and that particular washing out looked like stress to her. And because it looked like stress to her, she decided to call and check on Drew. And Portia claims like she doesn't care about the situation, but she would want to know. Your actions in this episode show otherwise, but I'm going to be real. I think either way, Portia has a problem with it, but I do believe her when she says the bigger problem that she has is the possibility of them filming together. We'll get into it. So Drew says their dynamic is a business situation. He helps her with music. I did reach out to you multiple times and I text you. Portia does say via text. That means Drew is telling the truth about contacting Portia. She reached out. She sent a text, but she said something. Drew gives more fluff about, her angel on earth, Dennis, and how he's been there for her and how he's been like a brother to her, and that Dennis told her that he spoke with Portia and that she's fine with it. Portia says that's not true, and I want the both of you to stop lying on me. Portia is married and currently going through a divorce when this is being filmed. So I don't care about all of the stuff that they're talking about, like the fact that Dennis reportedly created a song with Drew and had her sing it, and when she sang it, he was crying, and how about Portia feeling like Drew filming with Dennis complicates her life and all of this other stuff. It just, to me, all boils down to the fact that Portia wanted his filming to only be done with her. Portia then talks about Drew being an ambassador for her Go Naked hair, and she didn't like her trying to do a photo shoot of her product with production. I could understand her having a problem with that. I do understand that ambassadors are supposed to do different things, like promote the product in different ways. And seeing as to how this is Portia's baby, Drew should have contacted her and been like, look, I'm thinking about doing a photo shoot and having production film it. How do you feel about it? Just to see how, she would respond. She calls her, Portia does, a low down, dirty individual. Amongst other things, she says she's an itch at one point because she tried to film with Dennis and she's supposed to be her friend. This is dumb. Portia has nothing to give, so this is the real issue. I'm confused and Drew is confused, and I don't know. Does Portia think that Drew is Fallon? Like, she's like, oh, not Drew is Fallon. It would be that Drew is her, and that she's going to do what was done to Fallon because Simon and her were just supposed to be cordial and it turned to something else. It's just not adding up to me. Her level of anger and frustration makes no sense. It's a business move in more than one way. There's no resolve over their issues. She basically doesn't want Drew to say anything else to her. Shamia tells them, like, let's go downstairs and eat this cake. So they go get the cake. We don't see that part. I don't remember. I don't know. I was taking notes while I was supposed to be working. They jump in the pool for the phone party. They dance. That's the end. Next day, Angela is at home with Charles, her retired NBA Bulls and Knicks player. She tells us that she is a self-made millionaire. We are told that they met many years ago in Chicago. She gave him her number and he never called. They then ran back into each other 10 years later at their apartment complex and they started dating. They both have kids from previous relationships. She has a 24-year-old daughter, an 11-year-old son. He has Charlie Jr., and then they have 7 year old, I can't remember her name, but their daughter together. The timeline is a little odd to me with the 11-year-old son, but she made a point of saying that the 7-year old is who they share together. So I guess he met her when she had a child. I'm not sure. Y'all tell me what that is if you caught it. He's upset, or he was upset, because the kitchen wasn't clean when he tried to go down there to start cooking. Let me tell you something. The food that he's making, he is throwing down, and I'm not mad at it. She says he likes to cook and he likes to clean. So yeah, it's all right. He seems like he's a little old school in some ways, though. Angela is filming with her daughter, talking about Drew and Portia. I don't understand why she's not talking to, I don't know, friends or something, but I don't even know if her daughter lives there. But either way, she's talking to her 24-year-old daughter about the situation, and Charles could care less about the cameras or about what they're talking about, because he's making a bunch of noise with the pots and pans and slamming things and rattling stuff as they're having this conversation. Overall, Angela feels like she can see both sides of the situation when it comes to Drew and Portia, and she does feel like Drew should have handled it a little differently. While Charles says, because she's talking about how I would never be okay with that, and da 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 da. He was like, well, you worked with your ex before. And she's like, I didn't. And then she corrected herself. She's like, oh, I did. Charles like, you don't got to worry about me. I would never work with them lames. And that's the end of that. I hope that doesn't turn into a thing, but I guess we'll see. So we see Portia and Kenya meet up. They give us a montage of how far they've come, showing us how much they used to bicker with one another. They've been going at it for years, but at this point, now that they're both mothers, they somehow have gotten past it. I wish that we were able to see more of what this situation would look like, but it's clear that we won't, given that they have even removed Kenya from the credits. Like, Kenya, I don't know. I wish that Kenya handled herself differently. I don't know if it's going to be brought up on the show, but the fact that we're not getting Kenya confessionals bothers me because Kenya, in my opinion, is a hoot. So they talk about Dennis and Drew. Kenya says to her it's all weird. She didn't even know that Dennis was into music. And Portia's like, well, yeah, he did, record something for our daughter. Portia doesn't trust Drew. She says her and Dennis are in a good space. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad. And she doesn't want this whole situation to mess them up. I don't understand why it would, especially with Portia then later on saying that he's like a brother, which clearly he's not. It doesn't make sense to me why it would mess up things. The only person who seems to be having a problem with this is Portia. As I said before, she's most bothered by Dennis filming with them both. And I don't understand why that would be a problem. He doesn't get paid to be on the show, but him being able to plug his business on the show, as well as whatever he has going on with Drew, would be a win for him. So that's a win for their daughter. She then talks about her and Simon and how he lied about so many things and how he made excuses the one time they got surrounded by police and how he was married 4 times before her and how he had a fake marriage and other women at the house and all these other things. She tells us that she just knew in her heart of hearts that Simon was her person because when he read her book, when she was writing her book and he read it, he told her, based on all the bad relationships and things like that that she had, that he would provide a safe space for her. She would be safe with him, but he wasn't. I mean, a lot of guys say this. You didn't really know him long enough to determine whether that would be the case. And they weren't honest with each other, in my opinion, from the beginning. This woman got engaged to him so quickly, even though she knew that she was still kind of dealing with Dennis because he alluded to that. So I don't get why we're acting like this was some love story, that it was a fairy tale from the very beginning when it wasn't. The way that she went about the whole situation was wrong. You can't think that you're going to disrupt a marriage, whether or not they were having problems. I don't care. You met this man, and at the time when you met him, he was presenting himself as if he was happily married with his wife and you were hanging out with that wife. Then you later went, co-worker or not, and got with the man. Now, I could see her being upset with Drew had Drew tried to get with Dennis, but it's clear that's not what's going on. But this goes back to why Portia acts the way that she acts, because Portia knows what she's done, and karma comes back in more ways than one. So Kelly checks out the location of her next restaurant with her publicist. We find out that she started Nana's Chicken and Waffles back in 2016. They are a month out from this new space supposed to be operational. She has a remodel that she's supposed to be working on. She currently only has one location because her husband closed the other one. Al, her project manager, comes in, lets her know, like, I got to break you down to the reality of the situation. This is what I'm here for. We are not going to finish on time. And I guess he's right, because I think there's still only one location. There are multiple permits and build outs and all these other things that will hold us up. Kelly says failure isn't an option. She thinks they could do it. She says she has 4 girls and she doesn't get child support at this time because it's not really enforced. The way she made it sound is like she gets something here and there, but it's not consistent. So I guess that will get worked out once they complete their divorce. I wonder if her husband had money before her or if the money came with her. Like, did they build this together? Did he already have his own big business? Like, that part we're not sure about. So let's go to Brit. I don't know how I feel about Brit, you guys. I don't know. It feels very performative to me, and I'm not sure why. We go to Britt and Mike's home. They got married during the pandemic. We're reminded again he was her client. She didn't want to mix business with pleasure, but after a few months of lots of FaceTime calls, she decided to allow him to date her. At one point, they went out to Vegas on a date. She told him there would be no bedroom action, and she didn't clarify whether or not they did anything, but she said that they had a really good time. And after that, she thought that he was the one. They currently are working on a renovation for a home that they do not plan to live in. They want to sell it off. And he's basically letting her know, like, you can't add any more things onto it because with the way that you're setting up this house, we're not going to make any profit off of it. So after they sell this house, he's supposed to get her dream home because that's what he promised her. She wants her mom to live with them, and she wants her mother to sell her house. I don't quite get this part because her mom currently is with them. I don't know if she's there for a visit or what, because she's like, I know you don't want my mom to keep being beside us. We need to move her downstairs. So what's the deal with that? She wants to begin to plan for a baby. She wants to have a baby via IVF. She doesn't say if she has problems conceiving, but they want to do IVF because they want to be able to determine the sex of the baby. They want a girl because he already has a 15-year-old son. So Britt is talking about where they'll have the baby. Mike doesn't feel like they need to plan this out. Let me go back to the whole girl thing. Here's the thing. I feel like sometimes, and this is my opinion, and it's okay if you disagree with me, sometimes we take it too far with just wanting one particular sex. I get that people have certain desires, but if you really, really want a baby, what happens if you do the fertilization process where the egg and the sperm meet with each other and they're all girls? Does that mean you're not, they're all boys. Does that mean that you wouldn't implant any of that because you didn't get the boy, or I'm sorry, you didn't get the girl that you wanted? It just makes me wonder like how far people are willing to go with that, but I'll stay in my lane. Um Mike doesn't feel like they need to plan out having a baby. Like they just need to let it happen. Her mom walks in as Britt is saying that they'll have a baby this year, and he says allegedly. Given the way that they look, it is not going to be a good look for him to say allegedly. But then again, her mom throws shade too because she says finally. As she heads to the sauna with her mom, she tells him she loves him, and he says love is important. I don't know how I feel about them as a couple. I do know that they're probably going to eat Mike up this season if Mike continues to act this way because it seems like he doesn't want to be bothered. And I don't know if it's because he doesn't want to be bothered with her because she did just get that really, really big ring that she kept telling us about, or if it's because he's not feeling the filming aspect of this. But I would say this: Housewives, period, franchise, when you have men on the show that aren't willing participants in filming, the people who are watching this show are always going to feel a way about those men because it makes it seem like you're not being supportive of the person you're with. And I'm not knocking people. I have people in my life who will never appear on camera, who will never be on YouTube with me because they want to, remain offline, and that's fine. My point is, if you get on a big platform like this and you decide to come on camera, you need to put forth some effort because it's not a good look that you show up and you seem like you're being bothered. So we get to Shamia. I really appreciated the scene with her surrogate. Shamia has been through a lot to bring life into the world. She has had 7 rounds of IVF. The moment she said that, my stomach dropped because that's tough. I started thinking about the shots and the changes in her hormones and the inability to do certain things while you're sitting there and you're having to go through the rounds of shots and all those other things. And it just reminds you that you never know someone's story. So she talks about how people have said negative things about her, like the reason why she's doing all of this is because she's trying to maintain a body or something like that, when really it is that her body struggles with, carrying a baby. She said she recently even had an experience where she was pregnant, but it was an ectopic pregnancy. So she's meeting up with her daughter surrogate, Shadina, I think her name is, to check on her as well as to find out some information about potential surrogates because Shadina has a business with Dr. Jackie that helps match surrogates. We find out that her daughter was born at 32 weeks because her surrogate was diagnosed with breast cancer. It wasn't safe for her or the baby, so she had to have the baby. She talks about her surrogate feeling guilty, like she was a failure because she wasn't able to carry the baby to full term, and the baby has had, some complications. And Shamia's like, you were thinking about that, where I was worried that the pregnancy caused you to have this, because sometimes it can be gestational. And it just goes to show you that these women have really gained a respect for each other because they were worried about each other in that situation. She cared enough about that woman that she agreed that her baby needed to, be born so that Shanita could get the treatment that she needed. So they then talk about the ectopic pregnancy that Shamia had, and she says that she, went to the hospital because she was having stomach pains, and how at first, like, they just told her that she's gonna wait because she have to wait because there's a lot of people before her. And the moment that she sat down in the wheelchair, what happened is she started hemorrhaging really badly because her tube ruptured. Shamia says that she has two girls and two boys that are waiting to be implanted. So at this point, she needs help. And Shadina says, okay, no problem. I think I have someone in mind and I'll set up a meeting for you. I hope that she's able to expand on her family because it does seem like there's a lot of love there. And I think that people who have gone through all of this and done all these things to conceive, that I hope that they're able to do it. I hope that they're able to, if she wants to implant all four of those babies, I hope that they're able to do it. So Kelly and Britt meet up so that they can talk and the fur babies can hang out. We're reminded that they met a year ago and they instantly connected. They talk about Britt planning a wedding ceremony because she and her husband weren't able to have a traditional wedding. They had to go to the courthouse, get their paperwork, and then be married via Zoom. They then talk about the Drew and Portia of it all and Kenya again. The wedding ring comment wasn't that deep, but she is going to continue to bring this up every single episode because we see in next week's preview that she's talking about it again. We find out more about Kelly, and Kelly has been through a lot when it comes to her ex. While on a birthday trip, her husband took almost $500,000 out of their business account. She came from what sounds like an abusive situation. There were times where she said she had to sleep in the closet. There were so many cop calls, and it is a lot. And she says that she made sure that she presented herself well, like, meanwhile she was going through hell. And I think that's what people fail to realize. I think a lot of times people feel like they're supposed to be this face to abuse, but there are people that you come in contact with every day that have gone through this or have experienced it or may even be currently going through it, and you don't even know based on that appearance that they show. And I hope that her divorce is finalized soon. I don't know what the situation is because I haven't looked it up. And I hope that she's able to, be protected and that her girls are protected as well, because we know that he hasn't been able to see them. So I wonder what happened that the court said he can't see them. Time to work out. So Drew meets up with Shamia and Angela because she's known Shamia for a long time. Her and Portia and Shamia supposedly have a group text, and she's known Angela for like 3 years. So Angela can't understand why she chose to work with Dennis, and Drew repeats the very same thing that she said before. Drew doesn't like how Portia came at her. She's talking about how she could have, responded differently. And I did like that Angela was like, well, what did you expect from her if you didn't really get the okay? Drew is going, Drew is talking about the things that she's going through, and she says that her divorce is like a war, that she's trying to stay above water at this point, which is why the music is helping her. Ralph has really made things difficult for her. He's already taken large sums of her money, that he wants spousal support and child support. And she begins to cry as she's sharing this. And I can't understand why Ralph, who supposedly had all these businesses and is a tech guru and all these other things, is requiring spousal support from Drew. I understand that she's been on this show for a few years and she's made a certain income, but let her have her money. This is ridiculous. It's unfortunate because why are you trying to get support like she has to fund you when you're the one who didn't want to be with her anymore? You're the one who didn't want to work through things or really like see through your therapy. It just doesn't seem fair to me. I listen to some of these cases and I just feel like people really get messed over by the court system. And I don't know how this is going to turn out for Drew. I hope it turns out well, but I hate that, this woman is going through this with this man. So Shamia, Angela embraces her. Shamia arrives and they work out. After they finish, Drew talks about the upcoming performance that she has and that she's trying to get her body together. And Shamia wants to know, like, are you going to do an EP or an entire album? And she doesn't really answer, but Drew says that she has 30 songs. She talks about Dennis and says that he did talk to Ralph and Portia and that, he got both of their blessing. And Angela jumps in and changes the whole energy of the conversation because she says that she was shocked that Shamia asked if they were effing. Angela, that's not what was said. Are you dating? Doesn't equate to her saying like, are you having sex? Like it like, Angela, you doing too much. It seems like all these new people, and I know Shamia would be considered new, but I'm not calling her new because she's been on the show before as a friend of, but all of these newer faces, in my opinion, are coming at other people too much to keep storylines going. Like, there's no need for all of this heat towards Shamia. Shamia lets it be known that she would never say that. She's trying to explain what she was trying to say, and Angela just keeps going at her and running her mouth, feeling like she's the lap dog or the assistant of Portia. And I don't think that that's right. I don't think that she was trying to be a mouthpiece for Portia. I think that she asked a question that she wanted to know because they had already filmed the scene of her talking about it. So I'm going to ask you myself so it doesn't look like I'm being two-faced when I've already had this discussion with Portia and we talked about it on camera. Let me show you that I'm asking you because I want to hear it from you. So Shamia, in my opinion, gets pulled into this situation because of her loyalties to Portia, and I just hope that this doesn't bite her because at the end of it all, as I said previous episode, Portia wouldn't do all this for her. I haven't seen her do it. So Drew then tells us if we look up the definition of lapdog, we'll see a picture of Shamia. Drew, keep that same energy when you're in her face, please, because this is going to come back up. Because you like to act hard in the confessional and then you backpedal and pee-pop when it's time to be confronted about it. Shamia is done with this conversation and she leaves. So let's get to the final scene. Did Dennis get a ride to this scene? Because at the end of it, they were in the car together. Y'all tell me what you think. So Portia and Dennis meet up at this interactive playground place to hang out with, Little Pete. She speaks on the importance of them doing things together as a family so that, their daughter doesn't feel like the weight of the divorce. She wants her to have security in the both of them. I completely understand that. When Dennis arrives, she wastes no time to talk about Drew. He says it's just business. Portia feels like that's what you say. That's what Portia says. That's what you say. But around the crew, Drew is saying something completely different. I don't think she's saying something completely different. I think that Drew is just saying that he was there for her. Now, is she putting 20 on 10? Yeah, with the whole my angel and all that other stuff. Yes, I think that she is. But I also feel like it's kind of crazy that you're sitting there and you're acting like you don't, like she's making it seem like it's something sexual when it's not. She's made it clear that it's platonic, right? So she's like, Dennis, she's acting like you're her Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And Dennis' response is, look, she's going through a divorce with my homeboy. You had 16 marriages on TV. I had to see all of that. I was in pain. We kind of bonded. We had things we could relate to, so we worked together through the music. I didn't think I needed to include you in on my business. You think I'm sleeping with Drew? She's like, are you? He says, I would never. I believe him. Not yet, at least. So Portia feels like Dennis is trying to get back at her, and she doesn't like the idea of the whole filming thing. She feels like he could use this platform to go against her. What does Dennis have on you that you feel like that? You saw all the stuff that Simon had going on, and you were willing to film with Simon. What's the difference between him filming with you and him filming with Drew? Like, either way he could say things. So that isn't adding up to me. Dennis feels like as long as Drew uses the platform for promotion, it's all good. Portia says, you're trying to piss me off, that this is my territory. She tells us she just wants him to be a great dad for Pilar and not film with Drew. She's mad. She walks off saying, I don't know why can't get support, and she's crying. And she talks to production and she says that she doesn't know why she's crying. She doesn't want him to get mad and use the platform against her. I don't know why you crying either, girl, because it's not that deep. We then get a shot that says 20 minutes later. They're in the car together. I think it seems that way because her phone is up and it doesn't seem like it's like on a mount where she's talking. So I'm gonna say that they're in the car together, which is why I was wondering whether or not he had a ride or he got dropped off. Portia tells him, "Don't show up on this camera with another housewife, or it's gonna be a problem." Who is she talking to? Why is she trying to control everything? She puts the car in park as she's saying, I don't understand why I can't get loyalty. I can only count on me. He was like, man, don't even be like that. You know that the mic is on, like the mic is hot right now. And she said, yeah, you would know, because basically like you know all about production now. She tells him that all promotion isn't good promotion. And she says, what you do now will mark how this looks for your daughter. I don't agree with that, and I don't like the fact that she's using their child as a way to try to make sense of her demands. In my opinion, Portia still wants Dennis. I think like she act like a straight up fool towards the end of the episode with that whole situation. He was calm with her. She was being overly dramatic. And I think that Portia just wanted to have him film with her and only her, and she doesn't want him to film with anybody else because it takes away from her. But you all, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. As I said before, if there's something that I didn't mention that you want to talk about, feel free to put it in the comment section. Like the video, as I'm hoping to get in the algorithm. Until next time, peace.